Why does the world seem so broken? If there is a good and all-powerful God, why is there so much pain, so much cruelty, so much senseless suffering? Why do we build things only to watch them decay? Why do we love people knowing we will lose them? Why do we feel in our quietest moments like we don't quite belong here? Like we are strangers in a strange land, homesick for a home we can't remember? What if this beautiful, terrible world is not what we think it is? What if it's a prison, a mistake, a flawed copy of a perfect reality we've forgotten? And what if the creator of this place was not a being of infinite wisdom and love, but something else entirely? Number 16. So, what does this mean for us now? The Gospel of Thomas, one of the texts found in the Egyptian desert, contains a saying attributed to Jesus: "The kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you." Over half of the world's population identifies with a religion that traces its roots to the Middle East, yet very few know about the Gnostic branch that was deliberately pruned from that tree. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, spent over 16 years secretly working on his Red Book, a private journal filled with explorations of his own unconscious that mirrored Gnostic themes of self-knowledge and confronting a shadow-like God figure. The word gnosis has entered our language, but its original meaning, a direct, personal, and transformative knowledge, is often lost. So we are left with this giant, brain-hurting idea, the idea that our world is a flawed echo, that its creator is a blind, ignorant warden, that we are divine sparks trapped in cages of flesh and bone. What do we do with that? It's not a comforting thought. It doesn't offer the simple solace of a loving Father God watching over his creation. It offers something much stranger. It offers an explanation for the dissonance we feel. It validates that nagging sense that things are not right. This Gnostic framework is not about faith. It is about knowledge, not book learning, but gnosis, a deep, intuitive knowing. It suggests the answers are not in an ancient text or a holy building. The answers are inside us. The divine spark, the peace of the real God, is our true identity. The path is not about pleasing an external authority. It is about waking up. It is about remembering who we are. This process of remembering is the whole point. It involves looking at the world, with all its beauty and all its horror, and not flinching. It means seeing the flaws in the system, the cruelty, the decay, and understanding them not as God's mysterious plan, but as the inevitable result of a flawed creation. This perspective changes how you might see your own struggles. Instead of asking, "Why is God doing this to me?" the question becomes, "How is this experience, this prison, trying to wake me up?" The pain, the frustration, the alienation are not punishments, they are the grinding of the prison bars. They are reminders that this is not our true home. They are catalysts for seeking something more. The Gnostic path is an internal one. It is a rebellion fought not with swords, but with consciousness. The enemy is not a devil with horns and a pitchfork. The enemy is ignorance, our own ignorance of our true nature, and the cosmic ignorance of the Demiurge who built the cage. You don't have to believe in a literal Demiurge named Yaldabaoth to find value here. Think of the Demiurge as a metaphor. It is the voice of the ego, the part of us that says, "I am the only God. There is nothing else." It is the blind force of societal conditioning, the unwritten rules and expectations that keep us in line. It is the mindless pursuit of material wealth and status, the systems that promise happiness but deliver anxiety. The Archons are the gatekeepers of this system. They are the nagging doubts, the fears, the ingrained beliefs that tell us we are small, sinful, and powerless. To achieve gnosis is to see past these illusions. It's to realize that your consciousness is more than just the product of your brain chemistry. It is a fragment of the original, infinite consciousness. This is a lonely path in some ways. It moves away from organized religion with its communities and clear-cut rules. It asks you to be your own authority. It asks you to trust that small, quiet voice inside you, the one that whispers that there is more than this. But it is also a path of profound connection. It connects you to that divine source. It suggests that every other person you meet also has a spark inside them, even if they are asleep to it. It reframes our existence. We are not fallen creatures begging for forgiveness from a wrathful judge. We are sleeping gods, and it is time to wake up. It's an idea that doesn't just make your brain hurt. It makes your soul ache with a strange kind of recognition. And number 15 is this idea hidden in our favorite movies. The film The Matrix grossed over $460 million worldwide upon its release in 1999, but its philosophical underpinnings are nearly 2,000 years old. Philip K. Dick, the author whose works inspired films like Blade Runner and Total Recall, had a series of intense mystical experiences in 1974, which he spent the rest of his life trying to understand, filling an 8,000-page, 1 million-word manuscript called The Exegesis with Gnostic, like theories about a deceptive artificial reality. The movie, The Truman Show, won 3 Golden Globe Awards, resonating with audiences who felt a connection to a man living in a world that was a complete fabrication, controlled by a creator figure he didn't know existed. Popular culture often serves as a modern-day mythology. It tells us stories that help us make sense of the world. And a surprising number of our most memorable stories are deeply Gnostic in their structure. They might not use the words Demiurge or Archon, but the core idea is there. The world is a prison. The reality you perceive is a lie. You are special, and you have the power to wake up. You take The Matrix. It is almost a perfect Gnostic allegory. The world most people experience is the Matrix, a computer-generated dream world. This is the material prison created by the Demiurge, who in this case are the machines. They created this world to keep humanity docile while they harvest their energy. Most people live and die in this world without ever knowing it is fake. They are asleep. The agents, like Agent Smith, are the Archons. They are the guardians of the system. Their job is to eliminate anyone who starts to question the nature of their reality, anyone who might wake up. Neo is the seeker of gnosis. He feels that something is wrong with the world, a feeling he can't explain. Morpheus is the Gnostic revealer, the guide who comes from outside the system to offer him the truth. The red pill is the gnosis itself. It's a painful, disorienting knowledge that shatters your previous worldview. Once Neo wakes up, he realizes his true self has powers that the system cannot contain. He is a spark of something greater. Then there is the Truman Show. Truman Burbank lives in a perfect, pleasant world called Sea Haven. This world was created by a man named Christoph. From his control room in a fake moon, Christoph watches and directs every aspect of Truman's life. He is a classic Demiurge figure. He is the creator and ruler of his own little universe. He even believes he is doing it for Truman's own good. He tells Truman, "I am the creator of a television show that gives hope and joy and inspiration to millions." He is proud of his creation, but it is a cage. Truman begins to notice glitches in the system, a stage light falling from the sky, a radio broadcast describing his own movements. This is his awakening. He begins to seek the truth, to push against the boundaries of his world. The Archons in this story are the actors, the fake friends and family, who try to keep him in his place through emotional manipulation and fear. His final act of sailing a boat into the fake horizon and literally bumping into the wall of the set is his moment of gnosis. He chooses the unknown, painful reality over the comfortable lie. This pattern appears again and again. In Dark City, a man wakes up with amnesia in a world where a group of pale, black-clad beings, the Strangers, stop time every night and rearrange the city and people's memories. They are experimenting on humans, trying to find the soul. The world is a prison and the Strangers are the Archons. The hero, John Murdoch, learns to resist their control and use their own power of tuning to reshape reality himself. He is a trapped spark who discovers his own divinity. These stories resonate so deeply because they speak to that part of us that suspects the world is not quite what it seems. They give us a narrative for the feeling of alienation. They suggest that the glitches we see, the moments of injustice and absurdity, are not bugs in the system. They are features and they are clues that can lead us to the truth if we are brave enough to look. Number 14, could this be a map of the human psyche? The human brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others, forming a network more complex than any computer. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, proposed that the human mind was mostly unconscious, a vast, hidden realm driving our thoughts and behaviors. His student, Carl Jung, broke with him over this, suggesting the unconscious was not just a repository of repressed desires, but also a source of wisdom and connection to a collective human experience. And Jung's work on archetypes, universal patterns, and images found in myths and dreams bears a striking resemblance to the figures in Gnostic cosmology. What if the Gnostic myth is not a literal story about the cosmos? What if it is a brilliant, symbolic map of the human mind? Perhaps the Gnostics were not astronomers but pioneering psychologists using myth and metaphor to describe the inner landscape. In this interpretation, the story of creation is the story of our own consciousness coming into being. The pleroma, the realm of fullness and light, represents the unified whole self. It is the deep unconscious, the source of all potential, before it is fractured into different parts. It is a state of pure being, what some might call the soul or the higher self. Sophia, which means wisdom, is the aspect of our consciousness that desires to know itself. In her eagerness, she acts without her consort, without balance. This represents an imbalanced psychic move. She falls from the pleroma, and her passion and confusion give birth to a flawed creation. This is the birth of the ego. The Demiurge Yaldabaoth is the ego. The ego is the part of our mind that says, I. It creates our sense of a separate self. It is the ruler of our conscious, everyday world. And like the Gnostic Demiurge, the ego is blind. It thinks it is the only God. It does not know about the pleroma, the vast unconscious from which it sprang. Its primary goal is to maintain its own reality, its own control. It builds a world of rules, structures, and beliefs. This is the material world, our persona, the face we show to others. The ego says, this is who I am. This is all there is. The archons are the guardians of the ego's world. They are our psychological defense mechanisms. They are our complexes, our neuroses, our limiting beliefs. They are the voices of fear, doubt, and conformity. When we try to change, to grow, to connect with the deeper parts of ourselves, the archons rise up to stop us. They say, don't do that. It's not safe. Who do you think you are? Stay where you belong. They are the gatekeepers that prevent us from accessing the deeper wisdom of the unconscious. And the divine spark. That is the fragment of the original self, the piece of the pleroma that is trapped within the ego's structure. It is our true nature. It is the source of that feeling of homesickness, that yearning for something more. It knows that the ego's world is a prison, a limitation. Gnosis, in this psychological model, is the process of self-realization. It is what Jung called individuation. It is the journey of making the unconscious conscious. It involves turning inward, confronting the ego, the demiurge, and its defenses, the archons. It means recognizing that the I you think you are is only a small part of a much larger whole. This isn't about destroying the ego. The ego is necessary to function in the world. It is about putting the ego in its proper place. It is about realizing that it is not the master of the house, but a manager. The true master is the self, the whole of which our consciousness is just a part. The Gnostic journey is a journey of integration, of bringing the light of the pleroma into the constructed world of the ego, of healing the wound created by Sophia's fall, and of becoming whole again. It is a profound and ancient model for understanding the drama that plays out within every one of us. Number 13, why did this idea almost disappear from history? Around 180 CE, a bishop named Irenaeus of Lyons wrote a massive 5-volume work titled Against Heresies. Its primary purpose was to identify, catalog, and refute the teachings of dozens of different Gnostic groups. Before the discovery of the Nag Hammadi library in the 20th century, most of what was known about Gnosticism came from the writings of its staunchest opponents, like Irenaeus. The Roman Emperor Theodosius I in 380 CE made Nicene Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire, effectively outlawing all other Christian viewpoints, including Gnosticism. The penalty for possessing heretical texts was often severe. Gnostic ideas didn't just fade away. They were actively suppressed. They were declared heresy by an increasingly organized and centralized form of Christianity that would eventually become the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church. This early proto-Orthodox movement had very different answers to the big questions. Their power and influence grew, and they systematically pushed Gnostic thought to the margins and then into oblivion. Why was the Gnostic worldview so threatening? It came down to a few key areas of conflict. The first was authority. The proto-Orthodox Church was building a clear hierarchy. You had bishops, priests, and a set of rules. Authority came from the institution. Through a line of succession, they traced back to the apostles. The Gnostics, on the other hand, prized inner authority. Gnosis was a personal, direct experience of the divine. It didn't require a priest or a bishop to mediate it. Anyone, man or woman, could potentially achieve this awakening. This was a radical and dangerous idea for an institution based on hierarchical control. It decentralized power. If everyone could find God on their own, what was the purpose of the church? The second major conflict was over scripture. The proto-Orthodox were in the process of creating a canon, an official list of approved books that would become the New Testament. They chose the four Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, along with the letters of Paul and other writings that supported their theology. The Gnostics had their own texts. They wrote numerous Gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, and the Gospel of Philip, as well as complex cosmological treatises like the Apocryphon of John. These texts presented a very different picture of Jesus and his teachings. The Church Fathers declared these books to be forgeries and dangerous falsehoods, and they ordered them to be destroyed. The third point of contention was the nature of God and the world. The Orthodox position was clear: one God created the heavens and the earth, and it was good. This is a cornerstone of Judaism and mainstream Christianity. The Gnostic claim that the world was a mistake made by an inferior, ignorant being was seen as blasphemy of the highest order. It was an insult to the Creator and his creation. It also undermined a simple moral framework. If the world is good and God is in control, then the rules are clear. Obey God, obey the church, and you will be rewarded. If the world is a prison and its ruler is a fool, the rules become much more complicated. Finally, there was the Gnostic view of Jesus. For the Proto-Orthodox, Jesus was both fully human and fully divine. His death on the cross was a physical sacrifice to atone for the sins of humanity. Many Gnostics had a different take. They believed the divine Christ could not truly suffer and die. The body of Jesus was just a vessel, a phantom, or the human part was separate from the divine spirit that inhabited it. For them, Jesus was not primarily a savior who died for your sins. He was a revealer, a spiritual guide who came from the pleroma to bring gnosis and show humanity the way out of the prison. This struck at the very heart of the emerging Christian doctrine of salvation. The suppression of Gnosticism was a battle for the soul of Christianity. It was a fight to define who God was, what Jesus did, and how humanity could be saved. The side with the better organization, the clearer message, and eventually, the power of the Roman state won. And for over 1,500 years, their version of the story was the only one most of the world would ever hear. Number 12, how did a jar in the Egyptian desert change everything? In December 1945, near the town of Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt, an Arab farmer named Mohammed al-Salman was digging for sabak, a soft soil used as fertilizer, near the base of the Jabal al-Tarif cliffs. His mattock struck something hard. It was a large sealed earthenware jar, about a meter tall. Thinking it might contain gold, he broke it open. Inside, he found not treasure, but 13 leather-bound books called codices. Disappointed, he took them home. His mother, unaware of their significance, used some of the papyrus pages and the bindings as kindling to light the oven. One entire codex was likely burned this way. This accidental discovery would turn out to be the single most important cache of Gnostic texts ever found. What Muhammad al-Salman found that day was a hidden library from the 4th century CE. The texts were Coptic translations of much older Greek originals dating back to the height of the Gnostic movement in the 2nd and 3rd centuries. It seems a nearby monastery, likely founded by St. Pachomius, had been ordered to destroy all heretical books following an edict from Bishop Athanasius of Alexandria in 367 CE. Athanasius, a fierce opponent of heresy, had demanded that only the books of the approved canon be read. Some monk, instead of burning these precious texts, sealed them in the jar and buried them for safekeeping, where they remained silent and preserved by the dry desert climate for nearly 1,600 years. The journey of these texts from the jar to the public was long and complicated. After the discovery, they were sold on the black market, passed through various hands, and one codex was even smuggled out of Egypt and put up for sale in America. It wasn't until 1977 that a complete one-volume English translation was finally published. The Nag Hammadi Library was a bombshell. For the first time, scholars could read what the Gnostics themselves thought. in their own words. Before this, almost everything known about them was filtered through the hostile accounts of their enemies, like Irenaeus. It was like trying to understand a political party by only reading the attack ads of their opponents. The library contains 52 separate texts, or tractates. Some were known by name from the writings of the heresiologists, but were thought to be lost forever. Others were completely unknown. The collection is incredibly diverse. It includes alternative gospels such as the famous Gospel of Thomas, which is a list of 114 cryptic sayings attributed to Jesus. It has cosmological treatises that lay out the complex Gnostic creation myth in detail, like the Apocryphon of John. It has philosophical discourses, letters, and even prayers. The discovery of the Nag Hammadi library revolutionized the study of early Christianity. It showed that the first few centuries after Jesus were not a time of monolithic belief, but a period of incredible diversity and debate. Gnosticism was not just a small, bizarre, fringe movement. It was a powerful and intellectually sophisticated alternative to proto-Orthodox Christianity. These texts gave a voice to the losers of that ancient religious battle. They revealed a form of Christianity that focused on inner enlightenment over faith, on secret wisdom over public creed, and on the divine potential within the human spirit. The farmer looking for fertilizer had stumbled upon a key that would unlock a whole lost world of thought, a world that the early church had tried very hard to bury forever. Number 11. What was the Gnostic view of Jesus? The Gospel of John, which made it into the Bible, begins with, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." The Gnostic Gospel of Truth, found at Nag Hammadi, describes Jesus in a very different way. He was the one whom the Father thought of. He appeared, informing them of the Father. He became a way for those who were gone astray and knowledge for those who were ignorant. In many Gnostic texts, Jesus laughs from the cross, because it is only his physical shell, not his true divine self, that is being crucified. For the Gnostics, Jesus was not who mainstream Christianity said he was. His role and his nature were understood in a completely different context. To the Proto-Orthodox Church, Jesus was the unique Son of God, both fully divine and fully human, who performed a substitutionary sacrifice. He died on the cross to pay the penalty for human sin, a debt owed to God the Father, the creator of the world. This is the foundation of the doctrine of salvation by faith. Most Gnostics rejected this entire framework. First, they did not believe the God of the Old Testament, the creator of the material world, was the true God. So, why would the true good God send an emissary to be sacrificed to this lesser flawed being? It made no sense. Second, the problem was not sin, but ignorance. Humanity was not sinful, but asleep, trapped in a material world and ignorant of its true divine origin. The solution, therefore, was not forgiveness, but knowledge, gnosis. This is where Jesus came in. Jesus was understood as a messenger, an emissary from the pleroma, the realm of the true God. He was a revealer of secret wisdom. His purpose was not to die for sins, but to wake people up. He came to remind the trapped divine sparks of who they really were and where they came from. He was a guide who showed the way back home. His message was not believe in my death, and you will be saved. His message was, the kingdom of God is within you. Know yourself, and you will know the Father. The question of his humanity was also a point of major divergence. How could a perfect, divine being from the pleroma truly be part of the flawed, corrupt material world created by the Demiurge? This led to a set of beliefs known as Docetism, from the Greek word dokein, meaning to seem. Many Gnostics believed Jesus only seemed to be human. His physical body was an illusion, a phantom, or a temporary vessel. He didn't really eat, suffer, or die a physical death. The Apocalypse of Peter, another Nag Hammadi text, describes the narrator seeing two versions of Jesus during the crucifixion. One is on the cross, the physical form. The other is above the cross, the living, spiritual Jesus, laughing at the ignorance of those who think they can kill him. Other Gnostics proposed a separation. The divine being, Christ, descended upon the human man, Jesus, at his baptism. This divine entity then left the human Jesus just before his death on the cross. In this view, it was the man Jesus who suffered and died, while the divine Christ returned to the pleroma. In either case, the focus was on the message, not the man. The teachings, the secret knowledge he imparted to his chosen disciples were what mattered. The Gnostic Gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary, are filled not with narratives of his life and deeds, but with his cryptic sayings and private dialogues, the keys to unlocking gnosis. For the Gnostics, Jesus was not an object of faith to be worshipped, but a teacher of wisdom to be understood. He did not come to save the world, but to help a select few escape from it. Number 10. Who was Sophia, the mother of the mistake? The book of Proverbs in the Old Testament personifies wisdom as a female figure, saying, "The Lord possessed me at the beginning of his work, the first of his acts of old." In Greek, the word for wisdom is Sophia. The Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, one of the most famous buildings in the world, means holy wisdom. For centuries, a divine feminine aspect of God has existed at the edges of Western religion, but in Gnosticism, she takes center stage in a tragic and pivotal role. In the Gnostic creation story, the drama does not begin with Adam and Eve in a garden. It begins in a realm of pure perfection called the pleroma, the fullness. This realm is inhabited by pairs of divine beings, or aeons. They are emanations from the ultimate, unknowable God, sometimes called the monad or the abyss. One of the last and youngest of these aeons was named Sophia. Sophia's story is the story of a cosmic disaster. She is a figure of immense importance because her actions set the entire flawed creation into motion. There are different versions of the myth, but the core story is consistent. Sophia, whose name means wisdom, had a passionate desire. She wanted to know the unknowable Father. She wanted to create something of her own, just as the Father had. But she acted rashly. She acted without her male counterpart, her syzygy, creating an imbalance. She tried to conceive a being by herself, without the approval of the Spirit or the consent of the pleroma. Her act, born of a mixture of passion, curiosity, and arrogance, resulted in a monstrous, aborted creation. It was imperfect, misshapen, and ignorant. It was a creature born not of fullness, but of lack. Horrified by what she had produced, Sophia cast it out of the pleroma into the darkness and chaos below. She wrapped in a cloud so the other aeons would not see her shame. This creature, alone and in the dark, did not know of its mother, Sophia, or the perfect world of the pleroma. It knew only itself. This creature was Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge. Sophia's story is a tragedy. She is now fallen, separated from the pleroma. She is sometimes called the Lesser Sophia or Achamoth. Her grief and repentance fill the empty space of the cosmos. Her tears form the seas. Her bewilderment forms the soul of the material world. She is trapped outside the place of light, forever regretting her mistake. But she also has a plan for redemption. When the Demiurge, her monstrous son, creates humanity, Sophia manages to secretly place a spark of her own divine essence, a piece of the pleroma's light, into the creature Adam. This is the divine spark within us. It is our inheritance from Sophia. We are connected to the pleroma through her. Sophia, from her place of exile, works to help humanity awaken. She is the serpent in the Garden of Eden who convinces Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge gnosis, defying the Demiurge who wants to keep his creations ignorant. She sends revealers and messengers to remind us of our true home. Sophia is a profoundly complex figure. She is both a fallen goddess and a redeemer. She is the source of the cosmic error, but also the source of our salvation. She represents the divine feminine, wisdom, and the soul. Her fall is the story of how a part of the divine became entangled in the material world. Our journey of gnosis is, in a way, her journey of redemption. By awakening the spark within us, by remembering the pleroma, we are not just saving ourselves. We are helping to heal Sophia, to gather the lost light, and to restore the cosmic balance that she broke so long ago. Number 9. What is the pleroma, the realm of true light? The word pleroma is Greek for fullness. It appears in the New Testament, for instance, in Colossians chapter 2, verse 9, which says of Christ, "For in him all the fullness pleroma of the Godhead dwells bodily." The Gnostic teacher Valentinus, who taught in Rome around 140 CE, developed one of the most intricate and detailed descriptions of this divine realm. It wasn't a physical place, but a state of pure consciousness and being. Before there was anything, there was the ultimate, true God. The Gnostics gave this being many names: the monad, the one, the unknowable Father, the deep, the abyss. This God is so transcendent, so absolute, that it is beyond all description and comprehension. It is pure potential. This is the source of everything. From this source, a series of emanations or projections came forth. These are the aeons. The aeons are divine beings of pure light and consciousness. They are not separate gods, but aspects of the one God, like facets of a diamond. They exist in male-female pairs called syzygies. For example, the first pair might be depth and silence, followed by mind and truth, and then word and life. Together, all the aeons make up the pleroma. It is a harmonious, perfect, and complete spiritual universe. It is the real world. Our world, the material world, is just a shadow, a poor copy of this divine reality. The aeons exist in a state of perfect knowledge and communion with the Father. Their collective being is the fullness of God. The Gnostic cosmology is a story of emanation, not creation. The Demiurge creates, which means he makes something separate from himself. The monad emanates, which means it projects aspects of itself outward, like the sun radiates light. Every aeon is a part of the original God. The number of aeons varies in different Gnostic systems. Some describe a pleroma of 30 aeons, arranged in a complex hierarchy. The pleroma is a realm of absolute stability and harmony. But the myth introduces a crisis, a disruption in this perfect order. This crisis is the fall of Sophia, the youngest aeon. Her unauthorized act of creation introduces a flaw, a moment of passion and ignorance, into the system. This act creates a void, a shadow, a region of chaos outside the pleroma. It is into this void that the flawed creation, the Demiurge, is born. And it is in this void that the material universe will be constructed. The pleroma is our original home. The divine spark within each human is a fragment of the pleroma's light, a piece of Sophia's essence that got trapped in the material world. This is the source of our deep-seated feeling of alienation and homesickness. We are exiles from a perfect realm we can no longer remember. The goal of the Gnostic life is to escape the material world and return to the pleroma. This is not achieved through good works or blind faith. It is achieved through gnosis, the knowledge that awakens the divine spark and reminds it of its true nature and origin. The journey back to the pleroma is a difficult one. The soul must ascend through the cosmic spheres ruled by the archons, the servants of the Demiurge. At each gate, the soul must present the proper knowledge, the right passwords to be allowed to pass. Only the soul that has achieved true gnosis can bypass these guardians and complete the journey home. The pleroma, then, is both the origin and the destination. It is the perfect, unified state from which we fell, and the ultimate goal to which the enlightened spirit yearns to return. It is the concept of heaven, but reimagined not as a reward for obedience, but as a homecoming for the soul that has finally woken up. Number 8. So, who is this Demiurge, this blind, arrogant god? The word Demiurge comes from the Greek demiurgos, meaning public worker or craftsman. The philosopher Plato used the term in his dialogue, the Timaeus, around 360 BCE, to describe a benevolent divine craftsman who fashioned the physical universe according to a perfect, pre-existing blueprint. The Gnostics took Plato's concept and twisted it into something much darker. A Gnostic text called The Reality of the Rulers gives the Demiurge a name Samael, which means blind god. In the Gnostic myth, the Demiurge is the monstrous, accidental offspring of the Aeon Sophia. It's cast out of the pleroma. He exists alone in the darkness. He is ignorant of the spiritual world above him. He looks around, sees nothing but himself, and makes a fatal miscalculation. He declares, "I am God, and there is no other God but me." This is a direct quote from the book of Isaiah in the Old Testament. For the Gnostics, this was not the declaration of the true God. It was the boast of a blind, arrogant fool. The Demiurge is not evil in the way a devil figure is. A devil knows about God and consciously rebels against him. The Demiurge is not malicious, he is ignorant. His chief characteristics are ignorance, agnoia, and arrogance, orthodeia. He genuinely believes he is the one and only God. He is a flawed creator, a bumbling cosmic architect, using the materials available to him in the chaos, and with a faint unconscious memory of the patterns of the pleroma he inherited from his mother Sophia, he sets about creating the material universe. His creation, the physical world, is therefore a flawed copy of a flawed copy. It is a prison. It is a system built by an ignorant being. He also creates a retinue of servants, the archons or rulers. These are the beings who govern the material world and the planetary spheres. They are often identified with the angels and demons of other religions. Together, the Demiurge and the archons work to keep humanity trapped and ignorant. They are the cosmic wardens. In many Gnostic texts, the Demiurge has specific names. The most common is Yaldabaoth, which may mean child of chaos. Another is Saklis, Aramaic for fool. He is often depicted with the head of a lion and the body of a serpent. He is the God of the Old Testament. The Gnostics read the Jewish scriptures and saw not a benevolent father, but a jealous, wrathful, and vain deity. A God who demands endless sacrifices, who punishes humanity with floods and plagues, who constantly boasts of his own power. This, to them, was clearly not the transcendent good God of the Pleroma. It was the Demiurge, the ruler of the material prison. He creates the first humans, Adam and Eve, but he cannot give them a true spirit. They are just mindless puppets. The Gnostic texts tell of how Sophia, his mother, secretly intervenes. She tricks the Demiurge into breathing his own power into Adam, and along with it, she plants the divine spark, the piece of Pleroma's light she carries. When the Demiurge realizes that his creation now contains something superior to him, a spiritual element he does not understand, he becomes jealous. He forbids Adam and Eve from eating from the tree of knowledge gnosis because he wants to keep them ignorant and subservient. The serpent in this story is a hero, a messenger from Sophia sent to liberate humanity. The Demiurge is one of the most powerful and disturbing ideas in Gnosticism. It offers a direct and radical answer to the problem of evil and suffering. The world is not filled with pain because of God's mysterious plan or because of human sin. The world is filled with pain because the being who built it was a second-rate, ignorant, and arrogant entity. We are living in a poorly designed experiment run by a cosmic fool. Number 7, how can good and evil both be so powerful? Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest continuously practiced religions, originated in ancient Iran sometime before the 6th century BCE. It proposed a cosmic battle between a supreme good deity, Ahura Mazda, and an evil spirit, Angra Mainyu. This idea that the universe is a battleground between two opposing forces is known as dualism. The Manichaeans, a major Gnostic-like religion founded by the prophet Mani in the 3rd century CE, spread from Persia across the Roman Empire, and as far as China, teaching a radical dualism of a kingdom of light and a kingdom of darkness. The Gnostics looked at the world and saw a fundamental conflict. They saw light and darkness, spirit and matter, knowledge and ignorance, good and evil. These were not just different concepts, they were opposing realities. This worldview is known as metaphysical dualism. It provided a powerful explanation for the contradictions of life. Mainstream Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are fundamentally monotheistic. They teach that there is one God who created everything. This creates a difficult philosophical problem called theodicy. If God is all good and all-powerful, why does evil exist? The traditional answers often involve free will, divine punishment, or the idea that suffering is part of a mysterious, ultimately good plan. The Gnostics found these answers unsatisfying. Their solution was more radical. They proposed that the ultimate good God did not create the world we live in. Gnostic dualism separates reality into two distinct realms. There is the spiritual world, the Pleroma. This is the realm of the true good God. It is a world of light, spirit, and perfection. It is completely good. Then there is the material world, the cosmos. This is the realm of the Demiurge. It is a world of darkness, matter, and imperfection. It is inherently flawed, a mixture of good and evil. This is not a simple moral dualism of good people versus bad people. It is a cosmological dualism woven into the very fabric of existence. Spirit and matter are in opposition. Spirit, which comes from the Pleroma, is good. It is light, intelligent, and eternal. The divine spark within us is spirit. Matter, which is the substance of the Demiurge's creation, is at best a prison and at worst inherently evil. It is dark, chaotic, and subject to decay and death. Our bodies are part of this material world, a cage for the spirit. This is why Gnostics were often ascetic. They viewed the body and its desires with suspicion, as tools of the archons to keep the spirit entrapped and distracted from its true purpose. This dualism also applies to divinity. There are two gods. There is the good God, the transcendent father of the pleroma, who is completely disconnected from the material world. And there is the creator God, the Demiurge, the ruler of this world, who is ignorant and flawed. This neatly solves the problem of evil. The suffering, cruelty, and injustice in the world are not the fault of the true God. They are the handiwork of the lesser, incompetent Demiurge. The true God is not responsible for the mess of creation. This creates a dramatic tension in the Gnostic worldview. We are spiritual beings, sparks of light from the good world, trapped in a physical body in a flawed world ruled by a lesser God. Our entire existence is a struggle between these two opposing natures. The Gnostic path is the path of liberating the spirit from its entanglement with matter. It is a rebellion against the laws of the Demiurge and his cosmos. It is the quest to escape the realm of darkness and duality and return to the unified fullness and light of the pleroma. The world is not a good creation that has gone wrong. It was wrong from the very beginning. Number 6. Where did these radical ideas even come from? The Gnostic movement did not appear in a vacuum. It was a product of the turbulent and syncretic world of the 1st and 2nd centuries CE. The Roman Empire had brought together a vast array of cultures and beliefs. In cities like Alexandria in Egypt, you could find Greek philosophy, Egyptian religion, Jewish theology, Babylonian astrology, and emerging Christian ideas all mixing together. Gnosticism was a creative synthesis of these different streams of thought. One of the most important influences was Greek philosophy, particularly Platonism. Around 380 BCE, Plato taught that the physical world we perceive with our senses is not the real world. It is a world of shadows, an imperfect copy of a higher eternal realm of perfect forms or ideas. For Plato, the human soul was a divine entity that had fallen from this higher realm and become trapped in a physical body. The goal of the philosopher was to use reason to remember the world of forms and liberate the soul from its bodily prison. The parallels with Gnosticism are obvious: the two worlds, one perfect and spiritual, one flawed and material, the trapped divine soul, and the goal of liberation through a kind of knowledge. The Gnostics took Plato's Demiurge, his divine craftsman, and demoted him from a benevolent architect to an ignorant tyrant. Another major ingredient was Judaism. Gnosticism emerged as a radical reinterpretation, and often a rejection of Jewish scriptures and theology. The Gnostics were intimately familiar with the book of Genesis and other parts of the Old Testament. They simply read it in a completely different way. They took the stories and turned them on their head. The creator God, Yahweh, was not the true God but the foolish Demiurge. The serpent, the villain of the Orthodox story, became a hero, a messenger of wisdom from Sophia. Adam and Eve were not sinners, but the first victims of the Demiurge's attempt to keep humanity in bondage. Gnosticism can be seen as a form of Jewish heresy, a rebellion against the God and the law of the Old Testament. Emerging Christianity provided the Gnostics with their central hero, Jesus. They were among the very first to write extensively about the meaning of Jesus and his teachings. They saw him not as the Jewish Messiah, who would restore the kingdom of Israel, but as a spiritual revealer from the transcendent realm of the pleroma. They wrote their own gospels and treatises, placing their secret Gnostic doctrines into the mouth of Jesus. This is why many Gnostic groups considered themselves to be Christians, the true Christians who understood the secret teachings that Jesus gave only to his inner circle. Other influences came from further east. Persian Zoroastrianism provided a powerful model of cosmic dualism, the idea of a universe locked in a struggle between light and darkness. This helped the Gnostics frame their understanding of the conflict between the spiritual pleroma and the material cosmos. From Egyptian religion, they may have drawn on the complex mythologies of gods and the journey of the soul after death. From Babylonian astrology, they took the idea of the 7 planetary spheres, ruled by powerful beings, which the soul must traverse after death. They transformed these planetary rulers into the archons, the demonic guardians of the Demiurge's prison. Gnosticism was a rich and complex stew, a creative blending of some of the most powerful philosophical and religious ideas of the ancient world into a new and startling mythology. Number 5, who were the people who believed this? The term Gnostic was primarily used by their opponents, the Church Fathers, as a catch-all label for a wide variety of groups they considered heretics. These groups themselves did not likely walk around calling themselves Gnostics. They would have considered themselves Christians or followers of a particular teacher like Valentinus or Basilides. The movement flourished primarily in the 2nd and 3rd centuries CE, especially in intellectual centers like Alexandria and Rome. It is a common misconception that the Gnostics were all reclusive, world-hating ascetics. While some groups did practice severe asceticism, rejecting marriage and pleasure as traps of the material world, others were quite different. The writings of their opponents like Irenaeus sometimes accused certain Gnostic groups of being libertines, believing that since the body was an irrelevant prison, what you did with it did not matter. The truth is that Gnosticism was not a single, unified religion. It was a diverse collection of different schools of thought with a shared set of core ideas. One of the most significant and influential Gnostic teachers was Valentinus. He was born in Egypt around 100 CE and later moved to Rome, where he taught for many years. He was a brilliant intellectual and a powerful teacher. He was so respected that he was even considered a candidate to become the Bishop of Rome, the Pope. He developed a highly sophisticated and detailed version of the Gnostic myth, involving a pleroma of 30 aeons. His followers, the Valentinians, were a major force in Christianity for over a century. They did not separate themselves from the mainstream church. They attended the same services, read the same scriptures along with their own, and participated in the same sacraments like baptism and the Eucharist. They simply believed they had a deeper spiritual understanding of their meaning. Another major branch of Gnosticism is often called Sethian Gnosticism because it gives a special role to Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve. Texts like the Apocryphon of John are considered Sethian. This branch had a much more hostile relationship with the creator god of Judaism and was more starkly dualistic than the Valentinians. They saw themselves as the spiritual descendants of Seth, the immovable race, a people who carried the divine spark in its purest form. One of the most striking features of many Gnostic groups was the prominent role they gave to women. In an era when the mainstream church was becoming increasingly patriarchal, Gnostic texts and communities often valued the feminine divine. Sophia is a central figure in their cosmology. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene portrays Mary not as a repentant sinner, but as Jesus' most beloved disciple, the one to whom he entrusted his deepest secrets. The church father Irenaeus complained with disgust about a Gnostic group led by a teacher named Marcus, where women acted as prophets and priests, consecrating the Eucharist. For the Gnostics, since the divine spark was in everyone, gender was spiritually irrelevant. Gnosis could be achieved by anyone, male or female. This inclusiveness was another reason they were seen as so dangerous by the rigidly hierarchical proto-Orthodox Church. These were not fringe cultists, but sophisticated thinkers, poets, and community leaders who offered a powerful and compelling alternative vision of Christianity and the cosmos. Number 4, what is this secret knowledge they called gnosis? The Greek word gnosis is the root of English words like know and recognize. But for the Gnostics, it meant something far more specific and profound than everyday knowledge. It wasn't about learning facts from a book or memorizing a creed. The church historian Elaine Pagels, a leading scholar on Gnosticism, notes that while the Orthodox Christian might say, "I believe," the Gnostic would say, "I know." This knowing was direct, personal, and transformative. It was an enlightenment experience. Gnosis was not intellectual knowledge, but spiritual insight. It was a revelation. It was the moment a person realized their true identity. The Gnostic teacher Theodotus, writing in the 2nd century, summarized the essence of gnosis in a famous formula. He said it was the knowledge of who we were and what we have become where we were, whence we have been cast where we are hastening, from what we are being redeemed, what birth is, and what rebirth is. It was the answer to the most fundamental questions of human existence. The content of this knowledge was the Gnostic myth itself. To achieve gnosis was to understand on a deep intuitive level that you are a divine spark from the pleroma. You have become trapped in a material body and a flawed world created by an ignorant demiurge. Your purpose is not to worship this false god, or obey his rules, but to escape his prison and return to your true home. This knowledge was redemptive. It was the key that unlocked the cage. Knowing the truth about your situation was the first and most important step to changing it. How did one achieve gnosis? It wasn't something you could simply decide to have. It was often described as a gift of grace, a revelation bestowed by a messenger from the pleroma. Jesus was the ultimate revealer. He came not to die for sins, but to bring gnosis to those who were ready to receive it. He did this through his teachings, especially his secret teachings given only to a select few disciples. The Gnostic Gospels are full of these private dialogues and cryptic sayings, which were meant to provoke a spiritual awakening in the reader. The process was also internal. It involved introspection, contemplation, and a turning away from the distractions of the material world. It was a journey of self-discovery. A saying from the Gospel of Thomas, found at Nag Hammadi, says, Jesus said, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." The divine spark, the peace of the pleroma, was already inside. The task was to awaken it, to recognize it, to let it illuminate your consciousness. This is why the Delphic oracle's famous maxim, "Know thyself," was so important to the Gnostics. To know yourself, your true self, was to know God. This was a radical departure from the emerging Orthodox view of salvation. In the Orthodox model, salvation came from faith in Jesus Christ and his atoning sacrifice, and it was mediated through the church and its sacraments. It was an external system. For the Gnostics, salvation came from within. It was a personal, psychological, and spiritual transformation. It didn't depend on a priest or a bishop. It depended on your own capacity to receive and understand the liberating knowledge. This made gnosis a deeply empowering, but also a deeply subversive idea. It placed the ultimate authority not in an institution or a book, but within the enlightened human spirit. Number 3, why does the world feel so flawed and broken? A 2018 study in the journal Nature Human Behavior found that people across different cultures have a cognitive bias to see the world as a just place, often leading them to rationalize injustice by blaming victims for their own misfortune. But deep down, we often struggle with a contrary intuition. Every day, we are confronted with evidence that the world is anything but just. A child is born with a painful disease. A natural disaster wipes out a whole community. A good person suffers terribly while a cruel one prospers. This is the ancient problem of evil. If the universe was created by a single, all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good God, then how do you explain the existence of suffering? Theologians and philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries. Some say suffering is a test of faith. Some say it is a punishment for sin. Some say it is the result of human free will. Some say it is part of a divine plan so complex that our limited minds cannot comprehend it. The Gnostics had a different answer. It was simple, direct, and shattering. The world feels flawed and broken because it is flawed and broken. It was not made by a perfect being. It was made by a mistake. The Gnostic myth of the Demiurge is a direct assault on the problem of evil. The cruelty, the chaos, the pain, the decay, these are not mysterious features of a good God's plan. They are the predictable results of a flawed design built by an incompetent creator. The Demiurge, Yaldabaoth, is ignorant. He doesn't know about the pleroma, the realm of true perfection. He is working with inferior materials of the chaos and shadow outside the pleroma. He is trying to imitate a pattern he only faintly perceives. The result is the physical universe, a world of impermanence where everything that is born must die. A world of conflict where creatures must kill and consume each other to survive. A world of natural laws that are indifferent to our hopes and our pain. The Gnostics looked at the natural world and did not see the hand of a loving father. They saw the clumsy work of a blind fool. This perspective validates the feeling of alienation that so many people experience. The sense that you don't belong here. The Gnostics would say, "You are right. You don't belong here. Your true nature is spiritual, a spark of the infinite light of the pleroma. You are an exile, trapped in a foreign land. Your body, made of the stuff of the Demiurge's world, is a prison. Your homesickness is a spiritual memory, a faint echo of your true origin. This view also explains human nature. Why are we capable of such incredible love and creativity, and also such horrifying cruelty and destruction? Because we are a mixture. We contain the divine spark from Sophia and the Pleroma, the source of our yearning for truth, beauty, and connection. But we are also encased in a material body and a psyche shaped by the Demiurge and his archons. This is the source of our ego, our fear, our greed, and our ignorance. The human condition is a battleground between our divine spirit and our material prison. The Gnostic answer is not comforting in a traditional sense. It doesn't promise that everything will be okay in the end, because a loving God is in control. Instead, it offers a stark diagnosis. The system is corrupt from the top down. The creator of this world is the problem, not the solution. The world is not our home, it is a cage. And the purpose of life is not to make peace with the cage, but to find the key and escape. Number 2, are we prisoners in a material cage? The human body is composed of about 37 trillion cells, all working together in a complex biological machine. From a purely materialistic standpoint, our consciousness, our thoughts, our feelings are all byproducts of the electrochemical processes in our brains. When the brain dies, we die. That's the end of the story. For millennia, however, humans have held a different view that we are more than just our bodies. We have a soul, a spirit, something that animates the flesh and might survive its death. The Gnostics took this idea to an extreme. They didn't just believe we have a body, they believed we are trapped in a body. The material world, including our own physical forms, was not a gift from a good God. It was a prison skillfully constructed by the Demiurge to entrap the divine sparks of light that had fallen from the Pleroma. The body was a tomb. This idea is central to the Gnostic worldview. They saw a radical division between spirit and matter. Spirit was good, divine, and eternal. Matter was flawed, corrupt, and temporary. Our bodies, being made of matter, were part of the problem. They were the primary instrument of our imprisonment. The desires of the body for food, for pleasure, for comfort were seen as distractions, as chains that bound the spirit more tightly to the material world. The 5 senses, which are our windows to the physical world, were seen as sources of deception, showing us only the shadow reality of the Demiurge, not the true reality of the Pleroma. The prison was not just the body, it was the entire cosmos. The Gnostics adopted and adapted the astronomical model of their time, which envisioned the Earth at the center of a series of concentric spheres. These were the spheres of the Moon, the Sun, and the 5 visible planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. In the Gnostic version, each of these spheres was ruled by an archon, a servant of the Demiurge. These archons were cosmic wardens guarding the passages between Earth and the Pleroma. Their job was to prevent the divine sparks from escaping. They were the source of what the Gnostics called Heimermen, or fate. This was the idea that human life was controlled by the stars, by an unbending destiny that kept us locked in cycles of birth, death, and rebirth in the material world. The archons were not just external forces, they also had psychological influence. They were the source of negative emotions like fear, greed, and anger, passions that kept the spirit mired in the concerns of the material world and ignorant of its true nature. So, we are prisoners on multiple levels. We are trapped in a physical body. We are trapped in a flawed world. And we are trapped within a cosmic system of control, ruled by hostile powers who seek to keep us asleep and enslaved. Death was not necessarily a release. For a soul that had not achieved gnosis, death simply meant its spirit would be turned back by the archons at the planetary gates and recycled back into the prison, to be reborn in another body, with no memory of its past lives or its true origin. The cycle would continue, a pointless and tragic reincarnation in the Demiurge's realm. The only way out was gnosis. The liberating knowledge was the master key. It revealed the true nature of the prison, the identity of the wardens, and the secret passwords needed to bypass them. The Gnostic path was a prison break. The enlightened soul, upon the death of the body, would ascend through the planetary spheres. At each gate, it would confront the Archon ruler. But now, armed with gnosis, the soul would not be afraid. It could say, I know you and I know your master. I am from a realm superior to you. I am a spark of the light. The Archons, powerless against this knowledge, would be forced to let the soul pass. After clearing all the gates, the spirit would finally shed the last vestiges of the material world and be reunited with the light and the fullness of the pleroma, its true home. Number 1, what if the God we were taught to worship isn't the real God? Over 2.4 billion people on Earth identify as Christian. Over 1.9 billion are Muslim. Over 15 million are Jewish. These three great monotheistic faiths, all tracing their origins to the patriarch Abraham, share a fundamental belief that the God who created the heavens and the earth, the God who revealed himself to Moses and the prophets, is the one true and good God. This is one of the most foundational ideas in Western civilization. Now, take that idea and turn it completely upside down. This is the starting point of Gnosticism. It is their most audacious, most shocking, and most central claim. The God of the Old Testament, the creator of the world, is not the ultimate true God. He is a lesser being, a flawed, ignorant, and sometimes malevolent entity called the Demiurge. The true God is someone else entirely, a being of pure light and spirit who exists in a transcendent realm far beyond our universe and who had nothing to do with its flawed creation. This is the one Gnostic idea that changes everything. It reframes our entire understanding of reality, of scripture, of good and evil, and of our own identity. It suggests that for millennia, a huge portion of humanity has been unknowingly worshiping the warden of their prison. The Gnostics arrived at this conclusion by reading the Old Testament literally, but with a different set of assumptions. They read the book of Genesis and saw a creator who was anything but perfect. This God creates man, then regrets it and drowns almost everyone in a flood. He walks in the garden in the cool of the evening asking where Adam is, implying he doesn't know. He says, "Let us make man in our image," implying he is not alone. He is constantly demanding praise, sacrifice, and obedience. He declares himself to be a jealous God and punishes people for the sins of their fathers. To the Gnostics, this did not sound like the transcendent, perfect, and loving Father that Jesus spoke of. It sounded like a powerful but deeply flawed cosmic ruler. It sounded like the Demiurge Yaldabaoth who, in his ignorance and arrogance, declared, "I am God and there is no other." The Gnostic myth provides a backstory for this flawed character. He is the product of a mistake, born in darkness, unaware of the perfect spiritual world of the Pleroma, from which his mother, Sophia, fell. This idea has profound implications. If the creator is flawed, then so is his creation. The world is not a good place that fell due to human sin. It was a flawed, broken place from the very beginning. Suffering and death are not a punishment. They are built-in features of a poorly designed system. The laws of nature and the laws of morality laid down by this creator God in Scripture are not divine edicts to be obeyed. They are the rules of the prison, designed to keep the inmates in line. And who are we in this cosmic drama? We are not the humble servants of the Creator. We are something far greater. We are the children of the true God. Within each of us is a divine spark of light, a fragment of the Pleroma that was smuggled into the Demiurge's creation by his mother, Sophia. This means our true nature is superior to that of our Creator. We are divine spirits trapped in his material world. This is why the Demiurge is so jealous. This is why he wants to keep us ignorant. If we were to realize who we truly are, his power over us would be broken. This single radical idea is the key to the entire Gnostic system. It is an explanation for the dissonance of existence. It is a rereading of our most sacred stories. It is a declaration of rebellion against the God of this world. It tells us that our deepest intuitions are correct, the world is broken, we don't belong here, and there is something more. The path to salvation is not to appease the warden, but to remember our true identity and find our way back to the real God, the stranger God, who waits for us in our long-forgotten home.